My name is Ramona Abbott, and this is my Me Too story. When I was 6 years old and in second grade, a little boy terrified me all the way to school. He would follow me, he'd steal my boots, he'd pinch me, he'd shove me, he'd drag me off the swings, and he'd hit me. And that was when I first heard what was to become a very familiar refrain. Oh, that means he likes you. That's what boys do when they like you. Don't try to tell me that's what boys do. That's what boys are taught is okay. And it's not. When I was 12, I watched as a group of young men in my school trapped a girl and held her arms apart. There was a game back then called Whistle or Lose It. The fashion was to have zippers on your shirts, and boys would come up and grab the zipper holder and say, whistle or lose it, and you had to whistle, or they would pull the zipper down as far as it went. And in this particular case, they had her up against a hall wall, two of them holding her arms on either side, while two others rummaged around in her shirt and her bra trying to expose her breasts. And her screaming finally attracted the attention of a male teacher who came and broke it up. Don't try to tell me that that's just boys being boys. It's not. When I was 15 years old, a trusted family neighbor grabbed me when my mother was 8 feet away in another room and kissed me. Don't try to tell me that I asked for it. I didn't. When I was 17, I went to a technical school that had about 2,000 young men and maybe 5 young women. And every day I had to walk a gauntlet of young men cheering on, catcalling, commenting on my breasts and other body parts on a daily basis. There was a bet around the school, I found out, as to the size and color of my nipples, and an ancillary bet on whoever would be the lucky guy to figure it out and report back. Also, when I was 18, I went out for an evening that I thought was a date. A young man, as the custom of the time, picked me up, and we went out for dinner and dancing and drinks, and back to his place for aperitif or whatever afterwards. And it turned into a situation where it felt far safer for me to give in than to resist. For a long time, I thought it was my fault. I had gotten in a car with him. I had gone with him to dinner. I had been drinking and dancing with him. I had gone back to his place. But the fact of the matter is there was exactly one person in the room that evening that wanted to have sex, and it wasn't me. So don't try to tell me that wasn't date rape. It was. At 17, I was working in an office with 3 other women, and our boss, a man, walked in, and it was Monday morning, so you're doing the pleasantries, and we asked him how his weekend had been, and he said, I have a cold. And we all expressed our sympathy, and then he stopped and he said, I hear sex cures colds. Who wants to help me cure my cold? Don't try to tell me he was just joking. It wasn't funny. For the first part of my professional career, I spent almost all of my time in offices that had rigid tool calendars featured in them. And I don't know if they're as popular now, hopefully not. But at the time, think of a Playboy poster, basically, a young woman very scantily clad, posed very suggestively on tools such as jackhammers and the like. And in addition to that, everywhere I went on every job site, I was also followed by catcalls, hoots, hollers, comments on my body parts, the benefit of them, and or etc. Also, when I was 18, I was living in an apartment complex, and a young man knocked on the door one day. I didn't really know him. I'd seen him around the complex. It was in Phoenix, so it was sunny, swimming pools and the like. And he knocked on my door, and I opened it, and I was a little puzzled and said hello, and he said hi, and then he said, I just wanted to let you know we're having a wet t-shirt contest, and, I think you should enter, because I'm sure you'd win. And don't try to tell me that was a compliment, because it wasn't. When I was 25, a group of friends of mine and I went out dancing one evening, and I danced with a young man on the dance floor, as one does, and he followed me back to my table, and we were chatting, probably flirting a little bit. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he started groping me under the table, seriously groping me. Horrified, I shoved his hand away, and I don't remember exactly what I said. Probably something placating, trying to make a joke out of it, because that's how I'd learned to deal with these situations. And all of a sudden, when I did that, An ugly mask fell over his face, and he leaned into me and hissed, "Oh, I know your kind. You're just a little cock tease, aren't you?" Well, I was quite startled. And again, I don't remember precisely how I responded at that point, but I do remember the moment of utter disbelief that another human being would think it was okay to behave that way to a stranger, to anyone they knew. And don't tell me that was acceptable behavior. It wasn't. Another night out, another night with friends, dancing, same sort of situation, same time era, having drinks, chatting with another young man. And we were just talking about this and that and the other, small chat, because we didn't know each other. And he stopped in the middle of this and took a long, slow, appraising look at me from head to toe and back up. And then he looked at me and said, "You know, you have a terrific figure, great rack, great hips. You dress well, and you're very pretty. You know, if you just did something about your hair, you'd be a real knockout." I remember also the moment of utter and complete disbelief that anyone would speak to someone that way in public. Don't tell me that's acceptable behavior between men and women. It's not. One of the moments I remember most in my life was the moment I became invisible. I was in my mid-40s, and I was with friends again, at a restaurant or bar in Seattle. It was very hip happening, hubbub of activity. You could tell a lot of people met there. And I went to the bathroom, and as I came back, I was wending my way through a lot of small tables very closely jam-packed together. And I got like 2/3 of the way across the restaurant when I realized not a single man in here has even glanced at me. And at first it was almost like there was a shock that I was no longer even worthy, is that the word? I don't even know what the word is, of a second glance. And then I had a huge wash of relief come over me, because finally I could pass through life without being harassed everywhere I went. So the only thing that slowed this barrage down was getting older and heavier. Don't tell me that's okay. It's not. My entire life, from the age of 6 on, I have been catcalled, I have been harangued, I have been grabbed, I have been squeezed, I have been denigrated, I have been spoken down to because I'm a woman's in a man's world. I have had bets made on my face, my figure, my body parts, and I have been assaulted. This is not okay. So no one gets to tell me that, "Oh, it was just boys being boys. Oh, he didn't really mean it. Oh, you're so sensitive. You're just oversensitive. Nobody really did you any physical harm. What's the big fuss about?" It's not okay. None of it is okay. Ever.